Hello and welcome to Scorecard here on Citi TV. I am Bernard Abeko. Well, it's been a week that's been filled with a number of actions, and interestingly, it is with the FA Cup. It is producing a lot of magic. It will interest you to know that Arsenal's flaws has been exposed. And why is this happening often? Well, we have the solutions here on the show. Again, we talk about the MTN FA Cup here in Ghana and what Prosper Nateogum is doing to Kumasi Asante Kotoko. We'll zoom in then again into Spain to look at what Real Madrid is doing right. And of course, we'll move into Italy as well. So there's more packed on the show. I'll go for this quick commercial break. I'll be introducing my guest to you. Welcome to Scorecard here once more on Citi TV. I am Bernard Abeko. So I go straight into introducing you to my guest. On my immediate right is Wipia Buntugu. How are you? Welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's been a while.
Yeah. I mean, I know you're a solid guy, and I'm expecting a lot from you today, especially what your take is on Arsenal. I'll get back to you. Dennis, straight. Dennis Yoku, welcome, Dennis.
Yeah, thank you. How are you?
I'm a miracle.
All right.
You're good too?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Festive
Christmas
period
is over.
Was smooth, yeah?
Yeah.
New Year
a bit of fun,
smoother.
a bit of We had.
I've been watching your stats.
Please keep that under the carpet, please.
Okay.
Yeah, but you know, as they say in the expression, eye clear. We back to back to usual
Factory
business.
settings.
Factory settings. Yeah. So
Brilliant.
it's great to be.
It's good to be back. So you earlier on heard from Wipia Buntugu and of course Dennis Nyoku. We'll be getting straight into the actions, and let's begin from home. The MTN FA Cup for Kumasi Asante Kotoko. Dr. Prosper Nateogum seemed to be on the low now. He will not want much of the the noise around. He wants to focus on his team, especially at a time where he's not having one who is called, as if I say, he's a technical head in Coach James Kwesi-Appiah. And he would want to keep his head on the cook, focus on the team, and make sure he get things right. It was the MTN FA Cup round of 32, and they were at BBN at Danks Park. And interestingly, Kumasi Asante Kotoko got the win. Let's take the highlights. We'll return for more. So that's the MTN FA Cup for you. For Kumasi Asante Kotoko, well, it seems Dr. Prosper Nateogum seemed to know what he's doing. Let me begin from you, Wipia. Is this the kind of game you expected Kotoko to play, getting correct passes through, finding the right man, getting into dangerous areas, and of course getting that one goal and sustaining it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the key thing you mentioned there is creating a lot of dangerous chances, because I'm sure you saw from the highlights, most of the good opportunities came from Kotoko. But I think at the beginning of the show, you did mention that Prosper Nateogum just wants to keep things on the low. And we all know that winning cures everything in football. And it's a cup competition. The performances may not always be the best, but you just have to make sure that on the day you are able to outscore your opponent. And today, that's what Kotoko were able to do. The only thing I wonder is whether when they face tougher opposition as they go through the tournament, they will be able to translate some of those missed chances into goals, because we know that the margins get even finer the further you go into the MTN FA Cup, and it's so unpredictable, as we are all aware. So I think that's what the Kotoko hierarchy will be looking for, maybe some more clinicality in front of goal, just so that they can make sure that they go far in this tournament.
Beautiful. I mean, Dennis, for you, should this be the cup Kumasi Asante Kotoko should focus on this season?
Yeah, it's possible. They should be chasing this in the league. Basically looking at the double. I feel
double.
Yes, I think it's not beyond them. This is Kotoko we are talking about, for Christ's sake. It's beyond the fact that they've had difficulties earlier this season. She doesn't think that with the fact that they are still a very ambitious club, and the fact that they are one of the biggest clubs in Ghana. So it's now 8 out of 9 games. They've managed to get some consistency in the. After their earlier struggles. So I'm quite impressed with them. I think they could have scored more against Gold Stars. It was actually a difficult game, but they managed to dominate the game. I think that there's more fluidity in the games right now. If you watch their past 4 games, you realize that they've managed to create a bit of fluidity up front and managed to steal the back, because one of the issues they had earlier in the season was the fact that they were leaking goals at the back, and you could see that Prosper has managed to change the team around, try to make them more fluid and always trying to dominate games. And this is a game they could have won by 3 goals. I think Mukwala had a few chances in there. But I'm impressed with them. I think that they've managed to turn it around. They're now third on the league. So meaning that they are actually in the hands for the league as well. So of course, it's not beyond them to chase the double. I think they have what it takes to target those 2 caps. But yes, they'll actually face big competition because Mediama themselves are not doing badly. So I believe that they have what it takes to chase the double. It's going to be difficult, but I think they have the players and they have the quality to go for it.
Amazing. I mean, Wibia, for you, Dr. Prosper Nateogum, he came to Kotoko first, won the league. I mean, Dennis is predicting a double this season. Visible from the style of play he's introducing. When he came in, of course, the owner of the club indicated to him that he wants to get the team together first. But he seemed to beat what the expectations are.
I mean, that's the thing. Words are always just words. And the fact of the matter is Kotoko have one of the most aggressive and passionate fan bases in Ghana.
Absolutely.
And they want success. And so for Prosper, he probably went into the job knowing that he had been given those assurances that, okay, we don't necessarily have you on a win now mood. But then he still knows that delivering success is what will give him more leeway, more ability to, flex his coaching muscles and do more, be more creative with this side. So even though that is the mandate from higher up, I still think that he and his coaching team, together with the players, are still going to aim for success because at the end of the day, success is what the team and the fans want.
Dennis, is Kotoko a discipline? And I mean, from what we've seen in the foreign front with some clubs that seem to pretend that they can win trophies.
Yeah. But Kotoko
are they disciplined enough
to
win a double?
The thing about Kotoko is that, no matter what you say about them, they've got a class. They've always been a big club. We understand the fact that they face competition in recent years from the likes of Idiana, Midiama, and other teams that are coming. But they are still a big club. And I feel that
but the thing I've mentioned that is this is the team that puts him to shame all the time. Amongst everything that's under him, it is the club.
Exactly. So I believe that is actually not beyond them. I'm not saying that they'll go and win the double or they'll win the title. I'm saying that they'll be in contention for those 2 titles because look at how they started from the league was so bad, but they've managed. And we all know if you watch the league table, you realize that the margins are very small. You watch from the first to about 5th, the margins are actually very small. So it's not something that is not surmountable. It's something that they can actually do. But yes, the likes of Mediama and Indiana are looking very good, looking very strong this season themselves. But for the FA Cup, for the CAF competitions, it's always about what you show up on the day. And I feel that as much as Kotoko have the quality to do it, I think they'll face stiff competition because the CAF competitions are not like the CAF competitions are not like the league games where it's more like a marathon. It's just about what you do on the day, and a bad day on office and you're knocked out. So I think there's still a lot to play for. But yes, of course, they'll still be in contention for it.
Amazing. So that's the MTN FA Cup and what Kumasi Asante Kotoko seem to want to do. They've advanced through getting into the round of 16 now. What the MTN FA Cup holds is that, well, they try to consider proximity, teams around you that will not fetch much cost for you to play. So we'll be looking out for who Kumasi Asante Kotoko will be playing. And it seems the picture is getting clearer for the Porcupines because Gold Stars is big enough. Let's talk about Gold Stars a bit before we move on. For you, Gold Stars, that was a dunk spark. And it's not easy playing at that space.
So it's a reason why I'm giving so much credit to Kotoko because I feel that it's a difficult place to come and play, even on the pitch themselves. Because if you watch the board, if you go back and watch the highlights of the games, you realize that Kotoko played as if they were actually the ones who were playing at home. And that is something that hardly happens. When Gold Stars are playing at home, they're actually dominant and actually used to their turf. So you hardly see an opposing team come and dominate them. But that's what Kotoko actually did. And it's the reason why I feel like they managed to, they knew what they were going for. I think Prosper got it right. Trying to dominate in the midfield, trying to get hold of the game, exerting themselves, even though they were away from home. So I think credit should be given to Kotoko because, like you said, Gold Stars at home is always a difficult game to play.
So now Gold Stars out, and of course Mediama also out. Sky beating them by 1-0, and that makes it quite precious and sensitive for Kumasi Asante Kotoko to go ahead and do what they want to do. A bit on Gold Stars you want to touch on before we move forward?
Yeah, I think largely I agree with him because, I mean, looking back on their form, even though they haven't been as consistent, they still present like a very major challenge, especially at home. And I'm sure they will be disappointed with the performance they put up because allowing, an away team to come and dominate on your home turf is definitely not something that Gold Stars wanted to do. And in a cup competition, you don't necessarily have to be better than your opponent. You just need to make sure on the day you are more clinical. And unfortunately, they couldn't squeeze, a performance out of themselves to be able to brush past Kotoko. So they will be disappointed. But I think once again, Kotoko deserved, the win, and they got what they played for.
Brilliant.
I don't cut you, but
Yeah.
the one thing, Charlie, the goal scoring issue in our league, it's bad. You see, you find certain situations where you expect.
But that was
more,
the beauty of a goal Kotoko scored, though.
Fine, that is fine, that's
When
okay.
the ball
But you
looped
see,
in from
but
the
it's
control and
disheartening when I
finishing.
see players lacking composure in the final third, and I feel like that's something that when I see is pretty much annoying, because you could see Mukwala got himself in the box. He could have done better. Just a bit of composure sometimes, and it's sad. It's something that runs through our teams. It's not just the leagues, even our Black Stars level at the highest level. We are struggling to score goals. So why have we just? It's so when you watch the league, you watch the FA Cup, you realize that goal scoring is a major problem. And it's something you have to find. I don't know what it's coaching.
But for Prosper Natilgum, he's part of the coaches. I mean, himself and Professor Minta are people who've been teaching Ghanaian coaches.
Exactly. So you have the Mendes. So the question is, why are we struggling to score goals? Because you see, it's different if you're not creating chances. But if players consistently find themselves in the final third and lack composure, there's a problem somewhere. Because I don't want to believe it's quality, but I think that the players have to improve, because trust me, I'm not impressed with the striking abilities of our players in the league at all.
From one FA Cup situation here in our local front, let's zoom in into the foreign front, the Emirates FA Cup, the third round. Interestingly, it was Pedro Porro who helped Tottenham Hotspur this time around. I believe the coach smiled and at large. Let's take this highlights. We'll return for more. What a beautiful strike that was from Porro. I mean, it can only get better with Spurs, isn't it? The coach has been complaining he wants to win. He says he's a winner, and that strike.
Yeah, I mean, once again, like we mentioned for our own local leagues, the performance is not as important when it comes to cup competitions. And Spurs were not their, flying best, as we know. They can put goals past teams, and they've done that this season. But then it was about the quality. And in fact, switching from Spurs, if you allow me, listening to Company at the end of the game, he spoke a lot about how he felt the mentality of the Burnley team was correct, and that they fought hard, and that they played hard, and they listened to instructions, and they executed. But then the quality wasn't there.
For Burnley, right?
Exactly. And at that high level, it's quality that's going to distinguish teams. Pedro Porro came up with that moment of quality for Tottenham Hotspur, and sometimes that's just what distinguishes the teams. Unfortunately, Burnley cannot compete with the amount of financial muscle that Tottenham can. So to have a left back, or no, a right back actually, who can score goals like that. So sometimes it just comes down to that, and you kind of tell yourself, okay, we tried our best, but it wasn't enough. But I do think that Burnley have, certain players who can rise up to the occasion in the second half of the season, because they are not too far off the pace in the league, and this should allow them to focus more on it.
And I mean, for you, the new approach for coaches, trying to use the left and right hand side of the back four to be instrumental in the game. I mean, for Spurs, it's Udogie and Porro, and they've showed that's class. Is it a modernized approach to get results now for teams?
Yeah, for sure. It definitely does seem like a lot of teams are moving towards that. And I mean, there's a lot of different reasons why you're able to consolidate possession. It helps in build up, gives you different angles. And then it also confuses the opposing markers, because as a winger, you're marking your fullback on the touchline, and all of a sudden he's in the middle of the park, and you don't know what to do, because there's a winger on the touchline as well. And so you are confused. And then that's what happens, and you create overloads, and teams are able to exploit that. Spurs started this from the beginning of the season, and I expect them to, improve in the consistency of their play in that particular aspect as the season goes on. Because even though they lose players, they are very committed to their build-up, their high line, and their defensive structure. And so I'm sure over the rest of the season and come next season, we should see Spurs playing at a very, elegant, smooth tick, because they've been doing this for a long time.
I mean, Ripia has mentioned that, they were not at their possible best and what have you. But at this stage, with all due respect, it's the smaller clubs. You feel it's a way for this, they're going into round 4 now. It's a way for them to, get themselves into the space we know. Unfortunately, they've not been in recent time because of injuries, but I mean, the space we've known from the onset of the season.
Yeah, I'm sure basically before the game, people expected Spurs to blow away Burnley because of the fact that they're basically playing at home. I wasn't really too much surprised about the fact that it was just a narrow win. I just feel that in recent times they've been struggling to score enough goals. Spurs just come across like a team who basically rely a lot on Song for goals, and it's quite disappointing because they have players in there that could add up for the number of goals. Richarlison should be scoring more goals. I think I've watched him several times and realized that he's supposed to score more goals than he scores. Because he gets himself into very good positions. And the way Spurs play, they create a lot of chances because they always play on the front foot. So he can't complain that he's in step of supply because he's gotten chances but he's not taking them. And that is something that they have to impress. Because trust me, there are games that they will play where the margins where the margins are going to be very close, where they will not have enough chances to score, and therefore require them to be very prolific in front of goals. So I think for them, they have to improve that part of their game. I think they've done quite well. I think Angie has turned them around. They've managed to play in a certain way that has worked for them.
Absolutely.
And I say that for when it comes to playing styles, he has to do exactly the quality you've got. And I think that he's got the players to be able to play the way he wants to play. Contrary to Burnley, I feel that there were times earlier in the season where I think that Company was taking the team for a ride. In the sense that I believe, I actually understand the way he wants to play. But come on, it's all dependent on the quality you've got. So the quality determines the way you play. And I feel there were times I expected him to show a bit of balance in how he plays. But it was as if, yes, you want to possess the ball, you want to play
because
from the back.
Because the manner in which they qualified to the Premier League, for example, was excellent.
But you see, it's different playing the Champions League, different playing the league.
Absolutely.
And trust me, for the owners of Burnley, what they want to do is to survive. So as much as you have a way you want to play to impress the fans, you should also take note of the fact that results are what is key. And I felt there were games that I thought that they could have played in a certain way where they could have shot up, not to concede as much as they did, or found a way to win games. But they've been pretty much stubborn and lost a lot of games because I felt there were games that they could have gained more points and just because they wanted to, have played a carousel football, I call it, hold the ball a lot of times, of course, and pass it around several times where they're not really hurting the opponent. And I think, to be honest, I think Company has been lucky to still be in a job for the number of points.
I agree with you, though.
Yes, for the number of points Burnley have lost, I think that he's been lucky to be in it. So, but I think it's fine. They will back him, but I think that if the points, if getting to the business end and they're not gaining points, he could just lose his job.
Interesting. We'll be moving to the Chelsea-Preston North End game. For Spurs, finally, from you, Wipia, you think it is the dream for a manager like Angie to go on to win this trophy?
Yeah, before the show, I was thinking about it, like how important is it for Spurs to win the FA Cup? Mm-hmm. And then you go back to the fact that they haven't won a trophy in the 21st century.
Absolutely.
And it's difficult for a side like that to, say, okay, we are playing a weakened team in the FA Cup because we just want to, kind of get by in the league. I think this is probably the moment. This is probably the moment for him to, because they have a lot of
season
injuries.
For him to win a trophy.
They have a lot of injuries, and so the league, and even though they've done well to, maintain pace in the league, but then as your players start coming back, we know that the FA Cup is quite interspersed with league games. So your players, you probably get more full-strength players as you go further into the competition. So I like to see him take it seriously. I like to see what this Spurs team can do because the trophy changes a lot of things.
Brilliant. Let's go for this quick commercial break. When we return, we talk about Chelsea. They seem to play like a team that wants to win a trophy. I'll get back. We'll talk about that. Chelsea look like the champions, but this is a cup competition. And your previous performance really does not matter. What it matters most is for you to get into the next stage of the competition. They seem to get things right at the moment, getting 4 past Preston North End. This is the Chelsea we've been waiting for this while, isn't it?
At least in the second half it was, because in the first half, it was not what any Chelsea fan would have wanted to see, and it looked like we may get an upset because Preston were kind of playing toe-to-toe with Chelsea. But that's the thing. That's the thing with cup competitions. In fact, with consistency, which is something Chelsea have struggled with a lot this year.
Talk about struggles.
Yeah.
I want you to hold on.
Okay.
And allow viewers that opportunity to watch the highlights. Then I feel that they would understand that Chelsea didn't struggle, with this particular game. So that's a highlight for you. For Chelsea, it was a miraculous second half, just like Wipia was saying. that there were a lot of highlights in this game, you ask me. I mean, Modric was solid from the flanks, flying those balls in, and Broya was solid to, have just knew where to carry the ball to in the net. A brilliant second half you were discussing.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is scoring 4 goals is probably something that a lot of Chelsea fans wanted to see, because the attack has been blowing hot and cold this season.
Absolutely.
And the strange thing is Chelsea have individual talents that should be able to form a competent Premier League attack. I mean, Modric has had his struggles, but the quality is undoubtedly there. Raheem Sterling has scored over 100 Premier League goals. Broha scored goals for Southampton in the league. We all saw him do that. He's a Premier League level striker. Madueke is a very good winger. You have, Nkunku has been in and out of the side, but then with Cole Palmer, in addition, you have individual talents you should be able to put together to form a competent offense, which I think is something that Pochettino has really struggled with. Knowing what particular component in what format that can actually take Chelsea forward consistently, because he has tinkered and he has mixed and matched, and so far he has not yet got the right, the right combinations that will, be used long term. And that's something that we have to watch for going forward, because as Nicola Jackson has gone to the AFCON, and for all our, trolling and everything, he was their most consistent forward. And he was someone who...
Strange, isn't it?
Exactly. He always got into dangerous positions. He always... and once in a while, he would score, after missing a number of big chances. But at least he was the guy that they had who they could, say that this is our consistent player in our offense. But now that he's gone, I think this period will be crucial for Pochettino to figure out what is the format that I'm going with, so that when Jackson comes back, he fits into whatever solution they found. And I'm expecting a lot from Broha, especially because he has not hit the ground running as expected. He's done this before in the league. He has the physical tools, he has the mental ability, but he just hasn't been able to put it together.
To engineer him to do a lot of this?
I mean, I hope so. But it's moments, like in games, he's not able to hold the ball up.
There was a second one.
Exactly. There's moments that are there for him, and I want to see him tie this all together, because I think he can be, at least for the season, an answer to, Chelsea striker woes, if it just comes down to physical tools.
Wow, it was really not a matter of pressing not and coming to the party, was it? But for Chelsea's coach, maybe this in the second half is the project he's been trying to explain.
Listen, to be honest, I'm not going to get carried away by this win. It's with all due respect to Preston North End, they are Preston North End.
That's a championship.
And of course, championship, and playing at Stamford Bridge, for Christ's sake. So if you're a team with your sort, as big as Chelsea claim they are, you're supposed to be putting these people aside in there, just like Man City did to Huddersfield. So the only credit I will give them is the fact that they remained patient even though things were difficult, because in the first half it was blank, they couldn't score goals. But as a big side, you should always capitalize on your movements, and that is what they did. I think that's what I give them credit for, the fact that they remained patient and wait for the chance to come and take it. At least for this time around, what I was impressed about was the fact that they took their chances. I like the kind of goal Boja scored, because it's a kind of goal I want to be seeing more often, because I see the strikers getting themselves in such positions, but continuously refuse to take those chances. And I was impressed with that kind of goal. For Thiago Silva, he continues to remain world class, because he scored this kind of goals so many times in
at
his
the
career.
age in which he's doing it makes it marvelous.
I call him Thiago Mercedes, because he's just classy. You watch him, the way he plays his football, and the fact that he's been durable for so long is quite impressive. So I think this is a good win. I believe that it's a home win. It was a home draw, and they capitalized on it, they won it. And I think it's good for them. At least it gives them confidence going into the subsequent games. And that is what Chelsea need at this moment, because there are games they've dominated, but they've not been able to take the chances. And I think that if they're able to score 4 today, at least it gives them some level of confidence going into the subsequent games. And I expect people like Broja to be scoring more goals, because like you said, Jackson is not in at the moment. So I think that it is time to take the chance and try to get in the goals, because it's actually become a problem area for Chelsea, that there's actually no main person up front, capitalizing on the chances and taking and scoring those goals on a consistent basis. So I think it's a good start. It's good to score 4 goals, but hopefully they can go on and score more goals in the subsequent games.
Brilliant. Let's quickly stay on the goals, because there were lots of goals then again at the Etihad, and it will interest you to know. It will interest you to know that Kelvin is back. And you see how I struggle to put that together. And indeed, he has to come and do the magic the world expects. But it was 5-0 in that fixture against Huddersfield. And we'll go for the highlights. We'll return to discuss that. And the manner in which they do it, Manchester City, how do they train? It's so beautiful watching Manchester City play. Is this a Barcelona in England?
I mean, looking at their coach, you shouldn't be surprised. But yeah, I mean, like Dennis said for the previous game, it's Huddersfield Town. We should expect Manchester City to do this. The most significant thing that came out of the game is the fact that Kevin De Bruyne is back, and Kevin De Bruyne is back at seemingly 100% physical fitness, because
and that goal nearly found him.
Exactly, because and even apart from that, he just seemed to be up to the pace of the game. And yes, they weren't playing the biggest opponents, but he seems to be ready to take on the challenge of playing week in, week out in the Premier League. And it's seemingly unfair for other teams, because as teams lose players to the AFCON and the Asian Cup, etc., to injuries, City now gets Kevin De Bruyne back, they get Jeremy Doku back, and they get Erling Haaland back in the next couple of weeks.
Absolutely.
And you know we can always pencil City in for like 12, 13 straight wins in a season. And the way they are warming up to it, it does seem like this is the stretch for them. And from January to about early March, I'll be keeping a close eye on them, because even though they went on, I think they won 2 of their past 7 games before going to the Club World Cup, they came back and they were like 3 points off the top with a game in hand. No, 3 points off the top, even though they have a game in hand. And so they are by no means out of the title race, even though this has not been vintage City up to this point. So I'm expecting to see that machine, as we'd expect. That team you can count on to consistently find a way to win, and usually find a way to win in a very beautiful sense of the word. And so I'm expecting that peak City to come within the next few months, and we see how the other teams can deal with them, because you want to win the Premier League, you have to get past Guardiola and his men.
Interesting. I mean, Dennis, they're not up to their best. But look at how they score, the manner in which they score, finding guys in the right areas. And, I mean, this in the absence of, quote unquote, their typical number 9.
I think he said, I think he gave the word. They're just a machine, to be honest. It's just a system that runs irrespective of whoever plays in it. And
like what's happening at Barcelona?
Exactly. And I feel that, for this game, coming to this game, so just a matter of how many goals they're going to score. Playing Huddersfield at home was not going to be a difficulty for City. And I think that Pep has been able to create a team that thrives in such moments. And I always say that for the kind of team they've got, they've managed to set some standard for themselves that even when they have rough patches, people begin to rule them out of tournaments. People begin to say that they can't do this, they can't do that. It's as if they're not allowed to lose games. And that's credit to the coach, because he's managed to set the standards very high. Because I was surprised by the fact that just because they had they lost a few games, people said that City wasn't going to win the league again. I'm like, are you kidding? And you can see the kind of team they've got. Trust me. No matter what you say, I still believe they have the best team in England. And the fact that people got deceived in the sense that because we're losing games, they felt that Arsenal and Arsenal was going to win a title, or maybe Liverpool, and all of that. But I still think that, for me, they still look like favourites to retain the title. But it's going to be a difficult league title. But for the cup games, they'll always be favourites, because I expect them to go very far in this tournament, because they've got the squad to be able to go as far as possible. Because they've been playing without Kevin De Bruyne for how long? How many months? And they've still managed to be where they are. So the team is so strong that irrespective of whoever is in or out, they have a machinery that works in a certain way. So it's not just about individuals. Of course, Kevin De Bruyne adds something different to the team, but they have a system they play, and I think that they've got the quality to make that system work. So they are always going to be favourites in this tournament.
Interesting to know that from Manchester City, they've always been like this, I tell you. I mean, I loved, even though I hate to watch them, do this season, week in, week out, season after season. Sometimes it gets a bit boring for, us not seeing other clubs competing at the highest level of Manchester City. So again,
if it's boring, they should come and win it.
But you talk about boring. Let's talk about
for sure.
Absolutely. Let's talk about a club that always seem to want to win a trophy. This is the FA Cup. Talking about Arsenal. Let's go for this highlight. You understand what I'm talking about. So it was Salah-less, Sobo-less, Van Dijk-less, but still, Arsenal didn't even Did they know that these guys were not in the game?
I think to give credit to Arsenal, they did play better than they did in the league.
I mean, Dennis has said that it's always about the result.
It is always about the results, and results have not been good for Arsenal, and it must drive Mikel Arteta crazy because they were picking up pace, and it seemed like the path was there for them to tighten their stronghold at the top of the league. They were top at Christmas, but they haven't won a game since, and this is a big issue because he attempted to shift his side from a more fluid, attacking side to a team that's more solid, a team that can play more predictable games. I mean, you can say even a team more City-like in the sense that there's not that much variance. You play games knowing that Arsenal is probably going to win this by 2 or 3 goals. And he started from the back, brought in Declan Rice to show up the midfield. But then that has seemed to stunt the attack. Not necessarily the introduction of Rice itself, but then the shifting of the system. We had Kai Havertz come in as well.
Absolutely.
He's not been as sharp as he expected. And I'm sure we can have an hour-long conversation about whether Kai Havertz, or maybe it won't even be an hour, maybe it will be a very short conversation. Absolutely. Is Kai Havertz good enough? But then there's that aspect of it as well. But Arsenal are just not as fluid up front as they used to be.
So you feel they've been brutally exposed?
I mean, exposed is a tough word because you always have to evolve. Like, teams are not sitting back on their haunches. Arsenal were very good last year. Everyone was watching tape. Everyone was trying to figure out how to beat this team. And I think they just haven't evolved enough to be able to, counter that. Saka and Martinelli especially have been
untouchable.
I mean, he's still playing really well, but then the levels that he expects him to reach for the focal points of a title-winning team, they haven't reached those levels this year. And then I'm expecting that it's either new players or it's another shift in the system to bring out the edge in them. Because apart from those 2 players and Odegaard as well, if the spark doesn't come from there, I feel like Arsenal are in trouble going forward this season.
Talk about getting into trouble going forward this season. Do you think they lack the killer instinct, Arsenal?
Listen, Arsenal is not a serious club. They're not serious.
Arsenal are not a serious club?
No, they're not serious. You see, you can't be running out of steam in January. It doesn't add up. You see, for a team that really wants to win the league title and play very well and probably win it, you don't. Listen, how did they lose this game? I watched this game from the entire 90 minutes.
Yeah.
There was no way.
Look at the XG. There's no way Arsenal
should have lost this game. I watched them. You see that they were wasting chances, or they were being too intricate, or they were giving the balls away. I'm like, listen, the first 30 minutes, Liverpool was nowhere. They were just lost in the game. And I'm surprised. I'm sure that when Jurgen Klopp got into the half, I was like, I'm sure he was a bit like, wow, how did this happen? Because it gave him a new lease of life. Because they were lost in the first half, and Arsenal was very dominant. And you see, I asked myself, on several occasions when we've seen Havertz being the top man up front, he's never performed. I think he's done better in the midfield areas where they play the 4-3 when he plays deeper, and then he comes out there. So I didn't understand why he played Havertz up front. He was awful. He was very poor to me. Because and you see, and the thing is that front 3, surprisingly, they seem to have lost form at the same time. Saka is not playing well. Martinelli is not playing well. Havertz is out of sorts. Even Nketiah, who normally comes and no matter when he comes into the game and scores, he's not finding his goal-scoring boots. And it's at the wrong time because they seem to have lost form when they really need to have show their mettle. Because in January, come on, this is the business end. You can't till now to May, you're supposed to show your mettle. And unfortunately, Arsenal seems to be running out of steam. And it's the sooner they try this, they're able to get those players to get to score goals again, and they're going to be in trouble. Because I've always maintained that if they're not really able to find a goal scorer in January, there's no way Arsenal will win this league title. It's impossible. Because they're not scoring goals, and they need somebody who will be finishing up front. They don't seem to have it. So if they're able, until they fix that in January, I don't see how they can compete for this title. The fans can say a lot of things.
This is January.
This is January, and of course you're in the transfer window, right?
Absolutely.
So they need to find a solution there.
Who's coming?
They need to score goals because
Tony is one guy who
I've heard Tony. But you see, the thing is about Tony is that yes, he could come help because he's a natural goal scorer. But the question is, what kind of form is he in?
Yeah,
because he's been pretty dormant for a number of months.
Yeah, especially when the betting issue.
Exactly. So it's about who is coming in and going to get the ground running. And so they fix that issue up front. They're going to struggle in the coming months because the earlier they sort out their goal scoring issues, the better for them. Because at this moment, City looks really equipped. Liverpool are scoring goals. Because today, what happened was that in the second half, what happened was Jota coming into the game and changing it. Because Liverpool themselves were struggling up front, and then Jota came in, I think, about 20 minutes to time and changed their front line, and then they became dominant. So Arsenal got tired at the end because they had been playing so well, and then they got tired at the back line, and Liverpool just capitalized on it, and Jota was pulling the strings, and they scored 2 goals, and Arsenal is out. And it's very disappointing because you can't play like this, be dominant in the first half, and not score any goal and crash out this way. This is not a serious club. Serious clubs don't do this.
Look at how he wants to end it. How he ended it.
Arsenal is not a serious club.
If you don't mind, I want to shine the spotlight a little bit on Trent Alexander-Arnold, because he's been playing at a level that we probably haven't seen from a right back in years.
Absolutely.
I mean, I have to pose this question, like, where do we put him? Top 10, top 5, not just defenders, but I'm talking about players in the Premier League, because he changed this game for Liverpool. Absolutely. He hits the bar in the first half.
That's it.
But then even apart from that, in those moments where they needed goals, it was the quality that he delivered. And he delivers quality not just from set pieces, but from open play. And he's definitely someone to watch with Salah out.
Brilliant. We'll go for this quick commercial break. When we return, we'll talk about the Italian Serie A. For Inter Milan, they seem to be a serious team this time around. Even though it's just January, we'll come back after the break to discuss that. So welcome back to Scorecard here on Citi TV. I am Bernard Abeko-Ochre. So we've taken a deep look into some of the most important games across Europe, especially with the FA Cup here in our country. And of course, in England, I saw the 3rd round. Now clubs are entering, the boys are gradually being separated from the men. We'll be seeing the picture as it draws much closer. So I'll say a big thank you to you, Wipia Buntugu, and of course, Dennis Nyaku for sticking with us today too. And thank you guys who did the watching as well. Same time next week will be on your screen. I am Bernard Abeko-Ochre once more. This has been Scorecard. Sport is life. Get involved.